Welcome to the Alberta Legislature for Wednesday, May 16th, 1990. I'm David Carter, Speaker of the Assembly and member for Calgary-Egmont. Today, after question period, the House will be moving into Committee of Supply, dealing with the estimates of the Alberta Heritage Savings Trust Fund Capital Projects Division. In particular, questioning today will probably evolve around the topics of environment, technology, research and telecommunications, forestry, lands and wildlife. Various new bills will be introduced today as the House works its way towards probably rising sometime in mid-June. And as is public knowledge, the House will come back into session in the fall, probably in late October or early November. Let us pray. As Canadians and as Albertans, we give thanks for the precious gifts of freedom and peace which we enjoy. As members of this Legislative Assembly, we rededicate ourselves to the valued traditions of parliamentary democracy as a means of serving our province and our country. Amen.
Introduction of visitors.
Minister of Education.
It is a pleasure for me to introduce to you and through you to all members of the Assembly 4 members of a delegation from the Ukrainian Soviet Socialist Republic. They are here, Mr. Speaker, as a follow-up to the visit by the Honorable Deputy Premier, the Honorable Jim Horstman, and a visit that he made to the Ukraine in October of 1989. They are in our city, Mr. Speaker, to meet with government officials, as well as representatives of the Edmonton Public School Board, the Edmonton Roman Catholic Board, as well as the University of Alberta. They will have the opportunity to visit a number of Alberta schools and to observe Ukrainian language programs in operation throughout our city. And I might add, Mr. Speaker, we're very proud of those programs because Alberta Education and the government of Alberta has had considerable involvement with the members of the Ukrainian community in the development of those programs. Mr. Speaker, I am pleased that they are here to begin an important and lasting relationship with our friends from the Ukraine. I will now introduce them and ask them to stand and remain standing. They are Mr. Volodymyr Luhave, the Deputy Minister of Public Education, Mr. Bogdan Zarbravarne, the Rector of the Lutsk Pedagogical Institute, and Mr. Yevan Polishchuk, the Chief International Relations Department. They're joined by Mrs. Amelia Turnbull from the Department of Education. I'd ask all members of the Assembly to give them a warm Alberta welcome.
Presenting petitions. Reading and receiving petitions. Presenting reports by standing and special committees. Notices of motions. Introduction of bills.
Provincial Treasurer.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I request leave to introduce Bill number 21, the Financial Administration Amendment Act 1990. This is a money bill. Her Honor, the Honorable the Lieutenant Governor, having been informed of the contents of the bill, recommends this to the Assembly. Mr. Speaker, the Financial Administration Act is an important piece of legislation to the government. It sets in place the framework for the way in which the transactions or the financial transactions of the government take place. This legislation, Mr. Speaker, deals with some changes which reflect the current dynamics of the financial capital markets of the world and allow Alberta to be as dynamic in this business as any. At the same time, Mr. Speaker, reflects some recommendations from the Auditor General. And, Mr. Speaker, increases the debt limits of the province for the Alberta Capital Fund and for the General Revenue Fund. Mr. Speaker, I would move first reading of this bill.
The Honorable Provincial Treasurer has moved first reading of Bill 21, Financial Administration Amendment Act 1990. Those in favor of first reading, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, please say no. Carried.
Bill number 21, Financial Administration Amendment Act 1990, introduced by the Honorable Mr. Johnston, is now read a first time.
Provincial Treasurer.
Mr. Speaker, I request leave to introduce Bill number 26, Utility Companies Income Tax Rebate Amendment Act 1990. And Mr. Speaker, this piece of legislation flows from the fiscal plan of the province. The purpose of the act, of course, is to terminate the rebate of provincial income taxes paid by utility companies for the 1990 and subsequent taxation year, and to ensure that monies earned after April 1st, 1990 on the fund is remitted to the General Revenue Fund. I move first reading of this bill, Mr. Speaker.
The Honorable Provincial Treasurer has moved first reading of Bill 26, Utility Companies Income Tax Rebates Amendment Act 1990. Those members in favor of first reading, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, please say no. Carried.
Bill number 26, Utility Companies Income Tax Rebates Amendment Act 1990, introduced by the Honorable Mr. Johnston, is now read a first time. Tabling returns and reports.
Minister of Tourism, followed by the Minister of Energy.
Mr. Speaker, it gives me pleasure today to table responses to written questions number 146 and number 148.
Minister of Energy.
Speaker, it gives me pleasure to table the annual report 1988-89 for the Department of Alberta Energy. Also like to point out, Mr. Speaker, that it's printed on recycled paper.
Introduction of special guests.
Calgary Glenmore. We seem to have a certain panic waving at us here. Forgive us, honorable members. Member for Edmonton Meadowlark, is this a tabling or something? Just a moment, please. Might we have unanimous consent to revert to that part of our business, honorable members? Opposed? Carried. Thank you. Edmonton Meadowlark.
Mr. Speaker, I was standing when that was first called, and there's no panic about it. Thank you. Mr. Speaker,
Thank you, honorable member. The member was not recognized. We've now gone through the proper procedure to get it going. Let's just simply have the table.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I rise to table a report issued recently by the United States Environmental Protection Agency in which they outlined their serious concern about and their efforts to assess the cancer and non-cancer related health risks to humans consuming water and fish contaminated by dioxins and furans in water downstream from pulp mills in the United States.
Thank you. Member for West Loch Sturgeon as well. Thank you.
Mr. Speaker, I dare to rise to present 4 copies of Court of Appeal judgment that went against the Farm Credit Corporation, saying that farmers cannot be pursued under the right of atonement clause. There's tremendous interest, Mr. Speaker, because the ADC does try to chase farmers a little farther than they should.
Thank you, honorable member. Let's not get confused as to the purpose of tabling.
Introduction of special guests.
The chair had already recognized Calgary Glenmore, followed by Calgary Milliken.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'd like to introduce to you, and through you to members of the Legislative Assembly, a group of grade 6 students from the Chinook Park Bilingual School in Calgary Glenmore. Bonjour et tous les élèves de Chinook Park. They are accompanied by their teachers Diane Fortin, David Kwan, Dallas Wheeler, and Sarah Plews. And I'd like you to rise. They're in the members' gallery and receive this warm welcome from our assembly.
Calgary Milliken.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Today I'm really delighted, very delighted, to introduce to you and through you to the members of the legislature 34 really great students from one of Alberta's finest community schools, Colonel Walker Community School, and they're accompanied by their teacher, Valerie Kendall, and one of the parent volunteers, Mrs. McCauley, and by a very fine bus driver who also is the principal of the school, Mr. Patrick Spool. And they're seated in the public gallery, and I would like for them to rise and receive the warm traditional welcome of the legislature.
Calgary McKnight.
Mr. Speaker, I am pleased to introduce to you and through you to members of the Assembly a constituent from Calgary McKnight. Elke Babiuk is also a member of the Calgary Safe Water Association. I ask the members to give her the usual warm welcome.
Redwater Andrew.
Mr. Speaker, it's a pleasure for me today to introduce to you and the Assembly 22 bright, energetic students from the Willingdon School. They're accompanied by teachers Mrs. Cindy Liliuk, Mrs. Marilyn Lothog, and parents Mrs. Lynn Holinsky, Mrs. Bev Hominiuk, and Mr. Doug Motes. They're seated in the public gallery, and I ask they rise and receive the warm welcome of the Assembly.
Ministerial statements. Oral question period.
Leader of the Opposition.
Yes, Mr. Speaker, I'd like to direct my first question to the Minister of Labor. Mr. Speaker, the Minister of Labor might want to take a lesson from the pages of history, Mr. Speaker. Today is the 71st anniversary of the Winnipeg General Strike. Mr. Speaker, 30,000 workers walked off the job to support their demands for better wages, working conditions, and the right to collective bargaining. Mr. Speaker, unfortunately in Alberta we haven't learned much in the last 71 years. Mr. Speaker, today in Alberta we see public service employees out on a strike to support their demands for lower caseloads and better pensions, forced onto the streets to try to get action on legitimate concerns because unfair labor laws deny them justice. Mr. Speaker, the only thing prolonging this misery is the minister's steadfast refusal to do anything until the strike is over. In the meantime, clients are suffering. My question to the minister, when will this minister swallow her foolish pride in this matter and get back to the table with some concrete proposals for Local 3 and Local 6 of AUPE?
Mr. Speaker, it isn't a question of pride, it's a question of upholding the laws which this legislature passed. And regrettable as it may be, and eager as we are to go back to the negotiating table, we simply cannot do that in the face of flouting the law on the one hand, and in fact the judge's order on the other. We have said, and I will say it again, we are eager to get back to the negotiating table with both Local 6, the social workers, and with Local 3, the prison guards. Just as soon as they are back at work, we will be at that table.
I think we're going back 71 years ago. That's precisely the same sort of logic we got back in the Winnipeg strike, Mr. Speaker.
Right.
Now, Mr. Speaker, 2 years ago, the labor dispute involving nurses ended as a result of negotiations that went on during a so-called, and I stress so-called, legal strike. They reached an agreement, the pickets came down, a ratification vote was held, and nurses went back to work, Mr. Speaker. My question to this minister, why is the minister refusing to negotiate when she knows it could end this dispute just as it did with the nurses previously?
Hear, hear. Mr. Speaker, the leader of the opposition's analogy is an imperfect one. In the case of the nurses, the union being the United Nurses of Alberta, the other party at the negotiating table was the Alberta Hospitals Association. Two parties that are not the government. In the case of the collective bargaining process with the Alberta Union of Provincial Employees, The party at the other side of that bargaining table is indeed management in the government. But the government doesn't just play one role here. We have more than one hat to wear. One of them is as management, eager and willing to meet at the negotiating table, and in fact demonstrating that that process does work, having signed off the master agreement, which applies to everybody, having signed off a memorandum of agreement for local aid, and indeed being at the table this very moment negotiating with Local 1, which is almost half of the whole civil service. Nevertheless, I digress for just a moment. Let me get back to my point, which is, as a government, we also have the other role, and that is our role is to uphold the laws of this province and to see that they are followed. That is a role that the Alberta Hospitals Association did not have.
Speaker, they could have taken the same stubborn attitude and not negotiate because they could have said it was an illegal strike.
That's right.
But they showed good sense. They kept negotiating because they wanted it to end.
You're here.
Now, Mr. Speaker, this has been going on. Social workers have been fighting for years for lower caseloads. The correctional people in the correctional institutes have been fighting for pensions for years, and they're frustrated, Mr. Speaker. And I'm asking this minister again, why doesn't she show the same good common sense that the Alberta Hospitals Association did at that time and get back and negotiate and forget about this so-called illegal strike? Get over with.
Yeah, Mr. Speaker, I find it shocking and distressing to find the leader of a party, the political party, which is the New Democrats Party, actually counseling the government of this province to ignore its own laws that we pass in this House. To me, that is a very distressing stand to take, and I'm sure that many Albertans will be watching with great interest to see that person taking that stand.
Irresponsible.
Second main question, lady.
And that's the whole point. And the Alberta Hospital Association ignored them. That's what they do. Mr. Speaker, my second question is to the Deputy Premier, Mr. Speaker, and it has to do with the Minister of Environment, who had this to say yesterday, and I quote out of Hansard, "I feel sort of left out. I must be doing something wrong." Mr. Speaker, I can understand why he feels that way, because about time the Environment Minister realized that this government draws a line to window dressing when it comes to protecting our environment. Mr. Speaker, the admission that the Energy Minister, of all people, is to act as a neutral chairman for bringing in the Natural Resources Conservation Board Act would be funny if it wasn't so frightening, Mr. Speaker. I wonder how someone could be neutral when you're dealing with the environment. But my question is for the Deputy Premier, Mr. Speaker. How on earth does this government expect Albertans to have faith in a piece of environmental legislation when it doesn't trust its own Minister of Environment to bring it in?
Right?
Well, the honorable leader of the opposition is straining at a point beyond belief. The legislation will be passed by all members of the Legislative Assembly. It's government legislation, and the fact that it is introduced by one member or another of the Assembly hardly makes any difference if it becomes the law of the province. It's really a pointless question.
The only thing pointless is this government dealing with the environment, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, this legislation, remind the Deputy Premier, is supposed to create a body that will have far-reaching power to shape the environmental future of our province. It seems to me logical, falling from that the Minister of Environment should bring it in. And my question is, why do we even have an Environment Minister if he isn't trusted to bring in legislation on environmental reviews?
Great.
The lack of logic of the honorable leader of the opposition is well known to members of this assembly, but it's seldom been demonstrated more aptly than it has in this line of questioning. Any legislation which is brought forward by this legislative assembly, by the government, and subsequently passed will represent the law of the province of Alberta. And who brings it in is not a matter that should concern the honorable leader of the opposition as long as it is good law designed to protect the environment and to make sure that the natural resources of this province are properly and carefully shepherded and stewarded by this government, and that, Mr. Speaker, is what we propose to do.
Very good. Contrary to what the Deputy Premier says, it is very important who brings it in, because that puts a spin on that particular legislation.
That's right.
The Minister of Energy is the one that wants to go full speed ahead with every industrial development in the province, if you look what you're talking about.
Yeah.
And the Minister of the Environment is the one that's supposed to stand up and speak for the environment. My question to the Deputy Premier, then, is following from that. Will the Deputy Premier at least do this? Will he at least assure us that the new Natural Resources Conservation Board will at least report to the poor devil over there so he has something to do, Mr. Speaker?
Well, it's a pathetic line of questioning, that's all I can say. Mr. Speaker, the fact of the matter is that we will be bringing forward legislation within the very near future to this Assembly for consideration of all members, and it will be a Natural Resources Conservation Board Act that was announced in the speech from the throne, and it will be good legislation. And it will have the input of all members of Executive Council. It will have the input of all members of the Government Caucus before it is introduced into this Assembly. And when it is introduced into this Assembly, it will then have members of the opposition and the Liberal Party will have the opportunity of assessing its adequacy or otherwise. And that's how laws are made in this Assembly. And the only spin, it seems to me, that is going on is the one in the Honorable Leader of the Opposition's head. Member for Edmonton Glengarry.
Mr. Speaker, I'd like to pursue the spin control a little bit more. The government, in its speech from the throne, bragged about its commitment to the environment. But since that speech from the throne, the Premier has undercut the Minister of Environment by not involving him in secret meetings with ALPAC officials. The Premier has undercut the environmental process of review in ALPAC, and now the government has relegated the minister to his continued phantom-like status by not allowing him to take this flagship legislation through this Assembly, allowing instead for a neutral minister to take it through. My first question to the Deputy Premier is this. I'd like to know how a government can continue to say that it has priority and gives priority to the environment when it doesn't even allow the Minister of Environment the trust to deal with an issue of substance like the legislation that's coming.
Well, Mr. Speaker, the Honourable Leader of the Liberal Party is a pale imitation of the Leader of the Opposition with respect to the question. Instead of being totally red, he's only pink. And I suggest, Mr. Speaker, that I've already answered the question. The Minister of the Environment is a member of Executive Council. And therefore has an opportunity of having the proper input to the development of legislation. And in due course, even the member of the Liberal Party will have an opportunity of assessing whether the legislation is appropriate for protecting the natural resources of this province and their appropriate development. But I can assure the honourable members of the Assembly that it will be well thought through legislation and has gone through careful consideration by Executive Council, by committees of Executive Council, by our caucus. That's the way legislation is prepared and presented, and it may not be the way the Honourable Leader of the Liberal Party would do things, but that's the way our government does things, and it's the right way.
Mr. Speaker, I want to thank the Deputy Premier for noticing the rosiness in my cheeks after my recent illness. I am in the pink, I feel in the pink, I feel great. And I'm not in the dark like the Deputy Premier is. Not in the dark like he is. Mr. Speaker, my next question to the Deputy Premier is this. We're told by the neutral minister We're told by the neutral minister, who is now chirping over there on the other side, we're told that the new board will be reporting to the Premier's office rather than to the Minister of Environment, allegedly to show stronger and greater significance. Isn't it a fact, Mr. Deputy Premier, that the real reason is because you don't trust the Minister of Environment to handle matters of substance and significance?
May I say at the outset, Mr. Speaker, I'm delighted indeed that the honourable member for Glengarry is indeed in the pink of health. I'm only regret that his politics are as pink as they are. The fact of the matter is, Mr. Speaker, that the honourable Minister of the Environment is a valued and trusted colleague in our government. He is a member of the front benches of the government of this province, and I know it grieves the heart of the former mayor of Edmonton that the mayor of Calgary has risen as high as he has, but nonetheless...
Thank you, honourable member.
It'll grieve, Mr. Speaker, it'll grieve me more to see him sitting in opposition next time. Mr. Speaker, my last question is to the phantom minister, the Minister of Environment. Mr. Speaker, it is given that Albertans are told month after month, speech from the throne, through speech from the throne, that environment is a high priority of this government. If it is such a high priority, why is it not a given that the Minister of Environment is not a member of the Priorities and Planning Committee of Cabinet? I'd like to ask the Minister of Environment why he's been a failure, unsuccessful, in not getting the Ministry of the Environment at the most powerful table of all in Cabinet, the Priorities and Planning Committee. Why?
Well, I feel good. I don't feel bad at all. I'm having a great time. A great time on this side of the house. It's marvelous to be over here. Mr. Speaker, it's marvelous to be part of a team. They don't understand what it's like to be part of a team. They don't understand what it's like to be government. They will never know what it's like to be government. Mr. Speaker, today the Liberal leader's colleague, the member for Meadowlark, called me a eunuch. Last week he was saying I had too many balls in the air.
Member for Drumheller.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. My question is for the Honourable Deputy Premier. Now that there are only 38 days left before June 23rd, can the Deputy Premier say if a meeting of First Ministers will be held soon in an effort to break the impasse on the Meech Lake Accord?
Mr. Speaker, certainly the hope of our government, as the Premier expressed yesterday, that a meeting would be called the First Ministers to help resolve the issues that are now crystallized, really, I think, and I think will be further crystallized by a report which will be presented to the House of Commons, I believe, tomorrow, although parts of it, if not all of it, have now become well known to most Canadians through appropriate leaks from wherever they came. I'm not certain. But I think that will help all governments make a decision as to whether or not there is sufficient ground in order to bring forward proposals which could indeed break the impasse we're now in. Certainly it is the desire of our government that that happen. That will happen. We have not yet had confirmation from the Prime Minister's office that that will be done, but quite frankly we do remain hopeful that we will be able to sit down very soon with the First Ministers and my counterparts and
appropriate officials to try and resolve this issue. It is, of course, very important for the future of our country, and we will approach the discussions in the most serious, thoughtful way on behalf of Albertans.
Mr. Speaker, can the Honourable Deputy Premier say what role the subject of Senate reform will play in harmonizing our present constitutional problems?
Well, Mr. Speaker, as honourable members know, because of the leadership of Alberta on the subject of Senate reform within Canada, in particular our proposal for a Triple-E Senate, which was approved unanimously in this Assembly on 2 occasions. I just repeat that for emphasis. I believe that Senate reform is probably the key which will unlock the current constitutional impasse. And we are hopeful that there will be a commitment on the part of the federal government, and I repeat what was said earlier about that matter. One has to have the federal government before any constitutional change can take place. You must have the federal government. Therefore, there must be a clear indication of the federal government on the issue of Senate reform, and the provinces of Ontario and Quebec are going to have to give us a clear indication that they are prepared to move further in Senate reform, keeping in mind that there are provisions in the Meat Lake Accord to deal with that. But a clear indication, I think, to the other provinces that are now dissenting on this issue, Senate reform will indeed be accomplished, I think will prove to be the key which will unlock this dilemma.
Edmonton Senator.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, last Saturday night, an 87-year-old woman, a blind woman here in the city of Edmonton, was taken to the Royal Alexandra Emergency Unit with pneumonia. And yet, Mr. Speaker, instead of being admitted, this woman was put on a cot in a hallway and waited all Saturday night, all day Sunday, all Sunday night, and then on Monday was put in a holding room with 8 other patients, and then finally only yesterday was admitted to a bed at the Royal Alexandra Hospital. Now, in the absence of the Minister of Health and the Premier, will the Deputy Premier not agree that for an 87-year-old woman in Alberta in 1990 to go through such an ordeal is absolutely unacceptable and shows the mismanagement and uncaring of this government in this province?
Well, Mr. Speaker, on behalf of my colleague, the Minister of Health, I will take the question as notice, and if full particulars can be passed on to her, I'm sure that she will take appropriate action in dealing with the board of the hospital in question and the medical practitioners who are responsible for dealing with matters of that kind. But to try and bring every case into this assembly where there has been a situation developed like that and place the blame at the feet of the government is irresponsible.
It's irresponsible is for promise after promise by this government to the Royal Alexandra Hospital that they will in fact redevelop their critical care and emergency wings. They were told that in 84, they were told in 86, they were told in 87. And they still don't have that money, Mr. Speaker, and the family's already contacted the Minister of Health and have gotten nowhere. So will the Deputy Premier, on behalf of the government, agree to contact Mrs. Lukinchuk and to apologize to her for this ordeal and ensure that the redevelopment of the Royal Alexandra Hospital proceeds as the Premier promised 4 years ago?
Mr. Speaker, I'm not going to accept the allegation contained in the preamble to the question that the Minister of Health has done nothing about this unfortunate incident. And therefore, I will take the matter as notice, and it will be dealt with by the Minister of Health, who I think all honourable members will agree is a compassionate, caring, and understanding minister and Albertan.
Edmonton Whiteman.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, it's unfortunate that I must pursue the matter of lottery funds in this House, but because of the present lack of accountability, I have no choice. Mr. Speaker, there is a deal in place which involves the Western Lottery Corporation and the Alberta Lottery Division, which provides, according to the information I've received, millions of dollars in lottery funds over a period of time to the Calgary Stampeders and the Edmonton Eskimos. Furthermore, Mr. Speaker, I understand that there is some benefit to the Alberta Western Lottery Division in the form of name rights, season tickets, and tables in the Gold Room in both Edmonton and Calgary. Now, Mr. Speaker, my question to the minister responsible for lotteries: was the minister himself or anyone from his office, or is he aware of anyone from the Premier's office being involved in the initiation or negotiations of the original agreement or the extended agreement?
Mr. Speaker, on September 7, 1989, I attended a news conference in Edmonton at Commonwealth Stadium, a news conference that had quite a number of people in attendance, and there was also representatives from the Calgary Stampeders Football Club and the Edmonton Eskimos Football Club. On September the 8th, there were a fair number of news articles within the province of Alberta, including this one, that was published in the Calgary Sun Friday, September 8th. Point after. Yesterday, Ken Kowalski, Provincial Minister in charge of lotteries, officially announced a new 3-year corporate sponsorship agreement with both the Esks and the Stamps. It's similar to the one in place for the past 2 years, except the early funding to each club has gone up from $850,000 to $950,000. What we've got in place, Mr. Speaker, is a marketing agreement between the Western Canada Lottery Corporation and both the Edmonton Eskimo Football Club and the Calgary Stampeder Football Club. Mr. Speaker, in exchange for such things as in-stadium advertising of products provided by the Western Canada Lottery Corporation, signage that you've seen in Commonwealth Stadium and Stampeder Stadium in Calgary, in addition to public address announcements that are being made, that would be allowed to be made available in terms of advertising of product by the Western Canada Lottery Corporation. In addition, Mr. Speaker, to utilization of the opportunity for the Western Canada Lottery Corporation to sell tickets at both stadiums throughout the whole year, the 20 games, including home games, playoff games. In addition, Mr. Speaker, we have the right to utilize management, players, coaches in advertising the Western Canada Lottery Corporation product. And all members will recall that in 1989, a new game called First and Goal was announced. In addition, Mr. Speaker, both football clubs provide to the Western Canada Lottery Corporation an opportunity to present $1 winners to winners under the Western Canada Lottery Corporation at football games. We're provided with game film that we can use to commemorate milestones. And Mr. Speaker, as part of the promotion and the event that the Western Canada Lottery Corporation wanted to put through a new product that would provide a prize that would allow people who are winners to attend Grey Cup games and the like.
Thank you, Honourable Minister. Thank you, Honourable Minister. Sit for the supplementary, Edmonton Whiteman.
Mr. Speaker, it was a great deal of rambling. I'm not sorry I asked, but my question was never answered. It was not answered. It was tiptoed around. Mr. Speaker, we've had the instance of briefcases brought to our attention, the trip to Japan, and Mr. Speaker, who knows what else. Well, the minister, Mr. Speaker, so I don't have to continue on these fishing expeditions and rely on tips. Will the minister make a commitment that he will table with this House a full accounting of expenditures, revenues, and surpluses of lottery funds?
Mr. Speaker, if an article in the Edmonton Sun on September the 8th, 1989, and an article in the Edmonton Journal of the same day, or an article in the Calgary Herald is a tip, well, that's an interesting scenario, Mr. Speaker. An announcement. Mr. Speaker, the agreement with respect to the Edmonton Eskimo Football Club and the Calgary Stampeders Football Club is some 15 pages in length. It has literally dozens and dozens of articles and scenarios with respect to it. The honourable member did not attend the Public Accounts Committee of this Legislative Assembly this morning, Mr. Speaker. When I appeared before the Public Accounts Committee that was scheduled weeks ago, there's a member of the opposition who's the chairman of the Public Accounts Committee, Mr. Speaker. I sat where the NDP sit, Mr. Speaker. I answered questions for an hour and a half, Mr. Speaker. Colleagues of the member from Edmund Whitemite were there. They asked questions with respect to the lottery situation in not only Alberta but Western Canada. Mr. Speaker, I'd be very, very happy to do that. I also told the chairman of the committee I'd be very happy to come back at another occasion. In addition to that, Mr. Speaker, the honourable member knows full well that the Western Canada Lottery Corporation issues an annual report. It's been issued for the last fiscal year. All of the information is contained therein.
Thank you. Thank you. The member for Red Deer North, followed by Edmonton Belmont.
Dear North.
Redwater Andrew. Let's go.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, my question today is to the Minister of Agriculture, and it's been some 2 months since the federal Minister of Agriculture announced a financial package for Western farmers, and since then spring work has come upon us, and farmers are still waiting and wondering, needing the cash for spring seeding. And I understand that a meeting in Winnipeg on Monday, the federal Minister of Agriculture has stated that an agreement in principle was reached for the provinces to share in the program. Could the Minister share the details of this agreement with the Assembly?
Mr. Speaker, it is correct that there was a meeting in Winnipeg Monday attended by the Deputy Prime Minister, Minister of Agriculture for Canada, and the Ministers of Ag for the three prairie provinces. I would not summarize the meeting as saying that an agreement in principle had been reached. I would rather summarize the meeting as saying some progress was made, and we'll be meeting again in Toronto on Friday.
Well, thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, to the Minister, this waiting and wondering and meetings aren't helping Alberta farmers any with putting in the crop. Could the Minister indicate what immediate steps he could take to get this financial package to Alberta?
Mr. Speaker, I think the programs that demonstrate this government's commitment to agriculture as the #1 industry have been well outlined in the House by both myself and the Premier. I did make the commitment to the members of the Assembly that I would do my best to ensure that any federal payout or under any federal payout program, Alberta producers would receive fair and equitable treatment. That is what I'm still striving to achieve, and hopefully we'll make some more progress on Friday.
Edmonton Belmont.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I've had the opportunity to look at a draft statement of the Solicitor General's strategic direction that was prepared a number of months ago. Mr. Speaker, it states in this strategic direction that probation officers are, and I'm quoting, probation officers are now community correction workers, often responsible for parole, young offenders, fine option, community service, volunteers, etc., in addition to all of their traditional duties. It also states, Mr. Speaker, that a higher level of academic and technical training is demanded of these workers. Now, Mr. Speaker, given this department's report, I'm wondering how the Solicitor General can justify the government's final offer to those correctional officers that expands their work week, would see them have the same pay in 2 years as they would today, and doesn't even address the matter of caseloads.
Pardon me, Mr. Speaker, I hope this is not an attempt to get caseloads involved in the officers that work for the Solicitor General's Department, because I haven't heard that brought up at all in respect to any of the discussions that have gone on. Secondly, we have made no final offer to anybody within the Corrections Division of my particular department. Thirdly, the salary, the pay that these people would receive, even with the offer that is on the table, is not the same 2 years as what it is from today. I'm talking about the total money received from the department. So I think the information is wrong and difficult to respond to.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. With most correction workers who are responsible for supervising prisoners who are on temporary absence or who are on parole are now off the job, and there's growing concern that these individuals may not be getting the supervision that's necessary to ensure the public safety. And the situation may be particularly bad in rural areas. And I'm hoping that the Solicitor General could advise who is now supervising these individuals that need this supervision, and can the Solicitor General guarantee that the level of public safety is as good today as it would normally be?
Mr. Speaker, the department has put very high priority on the probation officer's side, and those offices where we do not have people crossing the picket lines or where people are not showing up for work are being manned most satisfactorily, in my view, by management staff who are doing an outstanding job in covering off during this strike period. I cannot, of course, hold out any guarantees about anything. That's not within my power to guarantee these things. However, I am assured by my department officials that these offices are being well staffed and that those people that are on probation or on temporary absences are on the same reporting system as has been in the past.
Plain, followed by Westlock Sturgeon.
Mr. Speaker, in response to my questions day before yesterday, the Solicitor General referred to court records. With respect, Mr. Speaker, the Solicitor General was comparing apples and oranges. Unlike the files possessed by the Solicitor General's Department, court records typically do not contain fingerprints, do not contain photographs or detailed body markings and the like. Would the Solicitor General tell us exactly why the province wants to maintain prints, pictures, body markings, and more on individuals who have never been convicted of any offense?
Unfortunately, I guess, Mr. Speaker, never having been convicted does not equate never having had difficulty with the whole law enforcement and judicial system. The matter of fingerprints and pictures are still, under the Criminal Code of Canada and the Identifications Act, must be held by the federal people. And I can still see no difficulty or possible difficulty of the Solicitor General's Department holding similar information.
Mr. Speaker, in a decision delivered a year and a half ago, the Supreme Court of Canada suggested in strong terms that the practice of retaining information on individuals subsequently acquitted is unconstitutional. Would the Solicitor General agree to stop this unwarranted practice of retaining information and invasion of privacy in light of the fact that the province is likely breaching Albertans' rights under the Charter of Freedoms and Rights?
Well, Mr. Speaker, I don't understand the Supreme Court of Canada decision, and I read many of them, both during the study of law and the practice of law, that suggests something and doesn't come out and state something. Now, is it constitutional or is it not constitutional, and who can we look to but to the Supreme Court of Canada for such a decision? Unfortunately, a suggestion does not make it the law. They had the power to make it the law if they had wanted to at that court. And I suspect that when the Supreme Court of Canada does hold it unconstitutional as vis-a-vis the federal government and authorities, then the same law will apply to the provincial authorities. And until I'm advised that's the case by the Attorney General's Department, my previous answers stand.
Westlock Sturgeon.
Mr. Speaker, my question is to the Deputy Premier. For a government that prides themselves on free enterprise ethic and the minimum of interference between the consumer and the producer, he's shown rather pink trim lately, and so therefore, Mr. Speaker, I'd like to ask the Deputy Premier, being aware that the Minister of Agriculture, you probably remember in July the 1289, said when we asked whether or not 4-liter plastic milk jugs could be used to sell milk, he said he is tempted at this point in time to put forward a recommendation that we proceed with the 4-liter milk jugs. And then showing the same speed of foot that the Minister of Environment has, comes August the 4th, 1889, still nothing done. He assured me we're still moving down the same path. Now the question, Mr. Speaker, is would the Deputy Premier order free enterprise to take over and tell the Minister of Agriculture to get off whatever he's sitting on and authorize 4-liter milk jugs so the housewives of this country can buy the milk whatever they wish?
Mr. Speaker, I don't order the Minister of Agriculture around. I'll let him respond.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I believe that the honourable member for Westlock Sturgeon were to continue doing his research he would find that the last time he raised the question in the House, I shared with him that there had been a meeting of the total processing industry and agricultural caucus, following which a number of studies were requested via the impact on the industry and on the environment of the 4-liter jugs. Some of those studies are now complete, others are still underway. Once the studies are all completed, there will be a reassessment by Ag Caucus and probably another meeting with the total industry.
Speaker, that's the load of what the Minister of Agriculture is very familiar with, and he knows it. It's got nothing at all to do with the environment, Mr. Speaker, because this government authorizes half a liter, 1 liter, 3-liter jugs, but not 4-liter jugs, so it's got nothing to do with the environment. So, my question then, back to the Deputy Premier, what kind of a government does he stand as Deputy Premier of that will interfere so blatantly with the market process?
No, I'm happy to be part of a private enterprise government. The Minister of Agriculture has responded, and I shall let him continue to respond to a question which is within his area of his responsibility.
Mr. Speaker, I take it that the honourable member either does not understand the supply-managed nature of the dairy industry in this province, or he is totally opposed to it. I would suggest to the honourable member that the next time one of the dairy organizations have a meeting, that he attend that with me and express his view on doing away with supply management.
For Cardston, followed by Edmonton Highlands.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. My question is to the Minister responsible for lotteries, and my question is regarding the recent trip of a 5-person team to Japan, a part of which was the chairman of the Premier's Council in Support of Families. Alberta already has an ongoing trade and commerce relationship with their sister province of Hokkaido. Was this trip really necessary to the ongoing relationship we already have with that province?
May order, please, or is this a representation of that of the members of the House who would like to go on the next trip? Minister?
Yes, Mr. Speaker, in direct response to the question from the member from Cardston, and it may very well be that the member from Red Deer North would like to supplement the answer. He's just returned. This was an official exchange between the governments of the state of Hokkaido in Japan and the government of Alberta, who are sister provinces. Perhaps the member from Red Deer North would like to supplement. He just returned.
The chair needs to check, but I don't believe in the capacity the member went on the trip that he has the right to be answering the question here in question period. We have a violation of the members of asking a question of a member in his private capacity as a member. Supplementary, Cardston.
Supplementary then, again, back to the Minister responsible for lotteries. Perhaps the Minister could give us some direct results that we could actually, some benefits that would accrue to the province from that trip. Would the Minister do that, please?
Mr. Speaker, the question, I think, is a very valid one, because Alberta, in order for it to find its rightful place in the world, must in fact foster and ensure that it has intergovernmental relationships with various states around the world. Our province of Alberta has twinned itself with a sister province in Japan, a sister province in Korea, a sister province in China, and most recently a state in the Soviet Union. And Mr. Speaker, this is the 10th anniversary in 1990 of the importance of the signing of an agreement. And I want to repeat and amplify once again that in terms of the discussions that were held between the government of Alberta and the government of the state of Hokkaido, it was identified to us by the government of Hokkaido that one area that it wanted to learn more about was Alberta's involvement with the volunteer sector and Alberta's commitment to the family. And Mr. Speaker, an invitation was extended by the governor of the state of Hokkaido, and he asked me to lead a mission. I thought that it would be most appropriate for the chairman of the Premier's Advisory Council on the Family, because it was identified that the people of Japan wanted to learn more about our initiatives with respect to the family. And the MLA for Red Deer North headed that visitation, and he was accompanied by outstanding volunteers in the province of Alberta. A detective from the City of Edmonton Police Department is well known for volunteer work within the City of Edmonton. Executive directors at various volunteer associations throughout the province. And part of the condition was to be a reciprocal visit by the state of Hokkaido to Alberta. And I believe that that visit will be scheduled for September of 1990. And Mr. Speaker, it may be very negative that members in the opposition parties who ridicule volunteerism want to continue doing that, who ridicule our commitment to the family may wish to continue doing that, who may ridicule the importance that others see in us assisting and working towards the solving of family violence. They may laugh at those things, Mr. Speaker, but there are people in other parts of the world who are impressed with what this government is doing, who are impressed with what the volunteers are doing, and we have to help them when they ask us to help them, Mr. Speaker. We can't turn our back.
Edmonton Highlands.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I think this Conservative government has proven time and again that it's a prideful government. It won't admit when it's made mistakes, and if there's any case in point that I need to refer to, how about the strikes that are currently going on within the public service, Mr. Speaker? They won't admit their mistakes. But I'd like to help the Minister of Advanced Education out now that he's had 24 hours to read the bill to which I referred in question period yesterday, and ask him if he's now prepared to admit that he is wrong in stating that he hasn't expanded or attempted to expand his powers under Bill 27 to give him unlimited control over programs offered at post-secondary institutions.
Mr. Speaker, one could sound somewhat technical and refer to O'Sheen 410 or 428. The honourable member, frankly, is trying to raise a matter that's now before the House, Mr. Speaker. I don't wish to argue with the honourable member, but the answer is simply no.
Mr. Speaker, I wonder how it is that the minister can explain the exclusion of certain references that had controlled the minister's power before over post-secondary education institutions without acknowledging the truth of what I've said. The prohibitions were before no, that's right, but it's not called for second reading today. He used to be able to control the expansion of programs only if he wanted to avoid unnecessary or undesirable duplication. That provision will no longer be there. Mr. Speaker, will the minister now admit that this is nothing more than a power grab, and will he agree to drop this bill and bring it back to the drafting board?
Mr. Speaker, I wonder perhaps that the honourable member would have a different view if the honourable member were aware that each of the institutions was consulted prior to the preparation of Bill 27.
Orders of the day. Might we have unanimous consent to revert to the introduction of special guests? Opposed? Carried. Thank you.